So my name is Maria Yang. I am a professor in mechanical engineering. I'm also associate director for the Morningside Academy of Design. I'm here with Marion Cunningham. Marion, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Marion Cunningham. I am the managing director for the Morningside Academy for Design, or MAD, as we like to call it. And I'm going to turn it over to Catherine so that she can introduce herself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine Higgins. I am the Academic Research Program Administrator at MAD.
Thanks, Catherine. What we will do here, oh, actually, no, in a minute, we'll do that. What we'd like to do is just give you a little background on MAD in general, and then also about the fellowship in particular. And then what we'll do is we are really lucky to have some of our current and past MAD fellows with us today, who can also, I think, help answer a lot of your questions. And I see we have a good, robust number of folks here, so that's fantastic. Um, so, uh, MAD started about as a sort of an idea about in 2020 in the midst of the COVID pandemic. Dean Hashim Sarkis from the School of Architecture and Planning and Dean Anantha Chandrakasan from the School of Engineering reached out to myself and John Oxendorf, who is the founding director of MAD but cannot join us today. And we formed a faculty committee with faculty from across the Institute, from all the different schools and many different departments, to think about design at MIT and how we can sort of lead in design at MIT in general around the world. And if we go to the next slide. Thank you. We came up with a lot of really interesting notions. One of the things that we found was that design lives across all units at MIT. It's really interdisciplinary. And we also found that at MIT, there's a real focus on societal impact and thinking about how you can use design to make the world a better place. So a real strong emphasis that way. And so we came up with this whole report. People were very excited. And in the process, we were able to work with a wonderful philanthropic donation from the Morningside Foundation. This is Gerald Chan, his family foundation. He is very aligned with the idea that design is important for making societal change, and he really values the importance of helping students in particular learn to be designers who can make that impact. So they provided a $100 million gift from the Morningside Foundation to do this. And there's a sort of a mix of how this funding works. But some of it is earmarked for graduate fellowships, which is why we have the MAD Fellows. And next slide, please. Oh,
So
oh,
you probably want to hear a
yes.
little bit about the fellowship and what you have to do to apply and who's eligible. So eligibility is determined by whether you are a graduate student at MIT. All continuing graduate students are eligible to apply for the fellowship, whether you are a master's student or a PhD student. You can't be in your first year of a graduate program, but you can apply during your first year as a graduate student. And you should be thinking about the ways in which design is really central to your research or to your work. And when you think about the application, think about the question, who will benefit from my work and how? The two people who are shown here, Tiandra, she was an MIT undergraduate in architecture, and she was an MCP when she was a member of the class of 23 as a graduate student. And Yana Sadi, who's the person below her, is a PhD. I guess she recently graduated actually as a PhD in mechanical engineering. So these are just a couple of the departments from which we have our graduate students. As you look at the students who are currently in the current cohort, the class of 2025, you'll see we have 10 students. We usually have at least 10 each year, and they come from throughout the institute. We invite all 5 schools in the college to submit applications. We have yet to crack the School of Science or the School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences, but we have a robust representation from the School of Architecture and Planning, from the School of Engineering, and also from the Sloan School. So if you are a continuing student, which I suspect you probably are if you are on this call, and you have design as your core, then I encourage you to apply. And Catherine can tell you a little bit more about what's a part of a good application.
Great, thanks, Marian. So in the application, you'll see it, and as Marian said, to apply, you must be enrolled this year and enrolled next year, academic year 26-27. In the application, probably the thing to get to, quickest is to identify your nominator. Faculty can only nominate one student per year. If they nominate two students, we will go back to them and ask them to choose. So we encourage you to reach out to your faculty advisor as soon as possible. Make sure they have not already spoken to another student. You will be asked to include a resume. We're calling this now a resume more than a CV because it's just one page. This should include your academic and professional history and experience. And you'll be asked to submit a statement of interest addressing your area of study at MIT, so the research questions, methods, and expected impact. Also, how your graduate program includes design. So what are you designing, for whom, and why? In the application, you'll see we suggest about one page per question. However, it's up to you how you use those 2 pages. So, address these points as it works for you. You may include images in this statement of interest. However, we certainly encourage you to maximize these 2 pages and perhaps provide a link to a portfolio. You are asked to just provide the link to the portfolio, not upload it to the application portal. Let me myself get to the next slide. So the selection committee includes the MAD directors and MIT faculty members. They are looking for creativity and the breadth of your experience in design at MIT, the clarity of your research goals, overall academic quality, diverse perspectives on design, and also the impact of this fellowship on you, the applicant, including financial aspects. The benefits. The benefits include regular MIT tuition. So this isn't a TA or an RA-ship. Depending on the award, if you are awarded 2 semesters, that's 9 months, fall and spring semesters. If awarded 1 semester, that's 4.5 months, 1 semester of tuition. That could be in the fall or the spring. A monthly stipend is included, and it's in line with the Graduate Student Union collective bargaining agreement, that rate. That's a monthly stipend, standard health insurance, and also a scholarly allowance. These funds can help you purchase materials for your research, for your design research, maybe go to a conference, help with fieldwork travel, those research expenses that you need a little extra to complete. And the fellowship includes community. There's a weekly lunchtime seminar that's required of the design fellows. And this is to help you get to know each other's design research, have folks to talk to maybe outside of your discipline. And we'll also be inviting those fellows to other MAD programs to grow our community of designers at MIT. Key dates, you're here for the in-person session. January 12th is the deadline. That is the deadline for both applications and nominations. So an application is not complete until the faculty member has submitted their nomination. Those are due by 5 p.m. on January 12th. About mid-March, we'll be announcing the decisions. In late April, we have an event announcing and celebrating the incoming fellows cohort. And in mid to late August, the financials are processed. So now this is the fun part. I get to introduce some of our past fellows. Sophia Chiapero, Oliver Moldau, and Maxine Peroni-Sharp are here. I'm going to take a second and pin you all. But perhaps, Sophia, I'll ask you to start and introduce yourself and tell us all a bit about what you enjoyed with the fellowship.
All right. Hi, thank you, Catherine. Hello all. I'm Sofia Giapero. I just recently graduated from the Master in City Planning at DASP. I was part of the 2024 Math Fellowship. I don't know, do we have to introduce ourselves or just start talking about like our experience? Yeah,
That's
all right. Okay, so being part of the Math Fellowship, it was really incredible. I really love the community. Of course, when like you're going to apply, you're going to see that it has like very great benefits, and you can see that it creates like at least I think the first thing that I thought was like, okay, I'm gonna be part of this like club about this team. But after like meeting all the fellows and also meeting the people behind, like Catherine, Marion, Maria, John, and Adelaide, I think like it was like a family for me. I loved our lunches. I loved sharing with like different people from different schools or departments. I am an architect as a background and an urban designer, but I got to see design from like different perspectives and different eyes. It was like having an eye in different schools, like in each school. And I love that like interdisciplinary thing that the math club that I like to like call it like a club, it creates. So I will definitely push everybody to apply because it was definitely one of the things that I loved the most about being an MIT. And I still like, I don't know, like I still have a lot of friends from that experience, and I love always like coming back again to like to talk to them, and it's so nice. So yeah.
Thank you, Sophia. Oliver, I'll pass it on to you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Oliver Moldau. I'm a second year in the SMARCS computation degree, doing a dual in civil engineering. Um, and MAD to me kind of just feels like a nice deep breath and a time to um, step outside of your own research for a minute and get to know other people who are working or have similar aspirations or similar design sensibilities in scientific research and in art and in theory. And I kind of jumping off of what Sophia said, it's really nice to hear those perspectives. Um, and I don't know if in your year, this year we did a design history project, and this was particularly fun for me because I got to again take a deep breath from my own research and just look into something that I am curious about in terms of MIT and its design history. So I looked into these friezes that are on the fourth floor of Building 7, and found a pretty rich history, and that many of the people and parties who were involved in purchasing the friezes are still around today and in Boston. Um, so it was almost like a very interesting tangent to go down. But I wouldn't have done that had I not been in MAD. And I think that hearing from everybody else in the group, there were similar sort of interesting research projects that everybody was looking into. Um, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Oliver. Maxine, would you like to share with us?
Yeah, hi. My name's Maxine. I'm a third year PhD student in ECS. I was a MAD fellow in 2024. And yeah, I definitely like echo everything that Sophia and Oliver have said. I think that, one of the best things about the fellowship program is like meeting the other people in your fellowship cohort. And I think it's particularly valuable, like the kind of research that I was doing, having perspectives from people who think about things in a completely different way, who spend most of their time working on completely different areas or subfields. If I were to share my ideas with them or present some ideas, I feel like it really is this opportunity to kind of like expand, you know, a potentially more narrow kind of vision into something more broad, because you get this like amazing opportunity to just like cross pollinate with all of these designers, who all have like different values and interests. So it's a really nice opportunity. Yeah, the lunches are also fantastic, and then another thing that I'm really grateful for is just like since the MAD fellowship, I've also just become more involved with MAD in general, and MAD is really great. Like, I highly recommend, regardless of the fellowship, like getting involved with MAD, because there are so many great speakers and programs and people to meet, and there's so much support that MAD offers. So it's really, really great. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming in and making the time. Now we're going to turn it over for questions. You can raise your hand. You can also add questions into the chat.
And Catherine, maybe you can make it so that we see everyone's faces. Yeah.
Yes, let me do that. Oh, excuse me. Here we go. How's
We're
that?
at 45 participants. That's pretty good.
Hi. I had a quick question. I was looking at some of the previous fellows and then also the application materials, and it seems like everyone has like a pretty well-defined like project they're working on, and how much in the application should we be talking about what we would like our final output to be versus like who we are and what we work on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it depends a little bit on your major and what your area. So I don't know what department you're in. But because some people are not working on a specific project, like if you have a research project or like a personal project, that's fine. But if you're not in that uh, area, and oh, lots of questions. But so for some students that actually makes a lot of sense. But if say Sloan does not really have that sort of project orientation, but if maybe you have a startup company, you can talk about that, or you can just talk about your design interests in general.
Okay.
But do you specific like?
I'm in the art, culture, and technology program, and a lot of my work is sort of about design methodologies and like investigating them, but I don't have like a product I'm designing.
Oh, no, you can certainly talk about design methodologies. Absolutely.
Okay,
Like your
cool.
approach to, yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Someone's asking the question, what kind of projects are we most excited about? Are there any areas of study we're looking to focus more on? And the answer is no, we don't have any particular areas that we're targeting in terms of trying to cultivate members of the cohort who are focusing on those areas. It's your personal passion that, or your area of research that you can offer as part of your application package. We have no requirements in that way.
And I see there's one from you, Lynn. What are the research topics, approaches of design, spatial, architectural, social systems, and they're usually the interest and focus of MAD. There, we really have a wide aperture on that, and you can see that in the current MAD fellows too, the current and past MAD fellows too, is a huge range, intentionally.
Do you want to tackle how broadly do we define design?
Yeah. So we get this question a lot is how broadly does MAD define design? And can you give us some examples of the bounds, what might count as design and what might not? So that is, so we have taken great pains not to define design. So that's the first. And the second is, and this is not meant to be a cop out, but we have intentionally not sort of put guidelines around what we count as design. It's really up to you to sort of explain how what you're doing is related to design or design process or attached that way. So related in that way. So we intentionally do not define it or put boundaries on it. Unless I don't know if other people want to add anything to that. Yeah.
I mean, you can certainly think in terms of design approaches, you know, and elements of design. And Sophia, Maxine, and Oliver, like how do you kind of relate to that question? How did you think about that question when you were applying?
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
can.
could. Oh, no, please go ahead.
No, go,
So Maxine, you might need to speak up just a little bit.
Oh, okay, sure. So I actually kind of like when I was applying, I also had the same, question of like, oh, does what I do count as
Bye.
design?
Have a good day.
Because I was, nervous that it was like too focused on like optimization or like, you know, I was worried about that. But I think at the time I was working on like discovering different types of like high performing metamaterials, and in many ways like that process of discovering those is like figuring out how to design new materials. So I made that connection, and I really really love art and design outside of my research, so I also you know, brought that into my application and made all of those connections. And then I think after joining MAD, I kind of realized, oh wow, there is like, you know, I think I had this like preconceived notion of like this one type of thing is design. So it really doesn't have to be, you know, this one thing. I think that a lot of things kind of count as design. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like adding of what Maxine was saying, basically, I have my background is like in architecture and urban design, but I showcased that a little bit in my application. But the most I talked was about like what I wanted to create and what I wanted to explore. And it was more like related to system design and like digital systems design. And so when I don't know who was asking that question about like what is design and methodology, I must tell you, like literally my application was all about that. Like how can I create a methodology? How can I create a system? More like a strategic kind of design. And after math, I did that. Like my entire thesis like changed also because of I was in math, and I was like with Maxine and my cohort, and they literally like bring all the input on like how can I like reshape the way I think design. So I think that design has no limits. I was talking to Marion like 2 weeks ago about the topic of designing your life. So like you can design, you can bring design into whatever aspect you are researching or you are like interested in. So like let that be your guide basically.
I think for me, maybe it's a bit more cut and dry. I'm sort of classically trained as an architect, making paper models back in undergrad. Um, but now my work is a lot more about um, like how design has become a very siloed field where there's different schools of thought across different types of design, particularly in architecture and mechanical engineering and um, all of the different scales that we see in between. Um, and how these organizations don't necessarily talk to each other when we're trying to build buildings or make things. Um, and part of my work is about how do you develop workflows or tools um, or algorithms that help blend between these silos. Um, so I guess maybe less now about architecture, but more about again, sort of similar to Sophia, like designing systems and methodologies that bridge across design silos.
Thank you.
I see there's a question from Akshidi about being a Sloan student. I don't, unless, did we answer your question about what counts as design?
Yes, thank you. Those are all super helpful.
Okay.
I know I'd love a little bit super helpful, but a little bit more would be great to know as well, like especially from the business perspective on what kind of projects you have seen in the past.
Yeah, so we have had Sloan students become Mad Fellows. Some of them talked about projects that they worked on themselves, like startup companies, or past experiences doing design related work in a professional setting, and how they were sort of propagating that in what they did at Sloan. So it's not like they were necessarily designing a thing or doing research in design, but they were doing design adjacent um, startups and other activities, and that's
Sounds
totally
good.
within the okay.
They
Thank you so
they
much.
they all of them had projects of some type
Yeah.
to Maria's point. One person was looking at designing policies and bringing design very intentionally into a governmental context. Another person was, as Maria mentioned, working. Actually, there's been a couple people who've been a part of startups in connection with MIT Design X, and so really thinking about a design approach to assess what are the needs and then using that understanding of the needs to design a response. And I think one person did that in a health context, and another person did that in more of a retail context. And I'm trying to think, there was one more, we had someone in each class who has been from Sloan, and I'm trying to think of what the fourth person did. Uh, but those are examples of some of the activities that the Sloan students were engaged in related to
Thanks a lot.
design. Mhm.
We have a question from Sophia about the progression routes after the fellowship. Maybe so we don't have a formal progression route within MAD, but I would imagine the MAD fellows who are done with their fellowships. Maybe you could say something about how, what you've done since then, or I think that's what the question is. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Is this better, by the way?
Oh, yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, since the fellowship, it's only been, I guess, about half a year since the fellowship ended. But something that MAD really helped me with is it gave me the flexibility to actually kind of like pivot my research interests a little bit during the fellowship year, and explore some new areas. So I kind of during the fellowship, I finished the project that I proposed and also kind of pivoted and worked on some new stuff as well. And I've also just stayed involved with MAD and like I did a workshop the other week hosted at MAD. So I think there is definitely ways to kind of like stay involved if that's something like you're interested in, even once the formal fellowship ends.
And Maxine's been
Um,
great on the student advisory board. So sorry, Sophia.
No, I was in the same cohort as Maxine, and Matt gave me also like the freedom to pivot as well. I was not a PhD student, but I was a master student, and I was very in one track. But when I like pitched my idea in my application, I was just exploring this idea of digital urban planning and human interactions in like digital public spaces. And basically, Matt and the professor that nominated me, we wanted to like explore this idea, and it allowed me to create my master thesis around that. I created like more partnerships with different specific organizations that are doing that. So it created like a new way of positioning myself. And after math with the community, I've been like talking to math people every single week, I think, or every 2 weeks. I don't know if I encounter like John in the hallway, I talk to him, I grab coffee with Marion. I love being involved at math. I really felt like it was a family. And I am friends with like most of all of them. And I don't know, I think that it's a great way of like being in touch with groundbreaking design. And I would love to continue like I don't know, like getting to know everybody and being involved because I really see how like it gives me like a better perspective on how design is like changing the world in different like disciplines. So yeah.
Good to hear, Sophia. Wonderful. Sophia, does that answer your question? I'm not sure if they're on. Okay.
So there's a
So
question about if someone has research support, just finding the question again. If you have RA support from your research supervisor, are you eligible to apply for the MAD fellowship? And so this is where the 1 semester fellowship really comes in handy. If you say you are committed to teaching a class in the fall, we encourage you to apply for a spring fellowship. Marion and Maria, do you want to add to that in other examples?
So if you can't have more than 100% financial support at MIT. So one of the reasons that we introduced this one semester fellowship is to give students the flexibility to be able to do an RA one semester or a TA one semester and do have the fellowship the other semester. Because not only and you cannot you generally and an RA or TA is a student worker position, so it's also a different kind of position than a fellowship. So that was the other thing. We wanted to really make sure that there was clarity about where the MAD fellowship sort of its role in your financial profile, I guess, just to make sure that there was a clarity of information. I'm not sure so let me recap in a clearer way. You can have an RA and a TA. You cannot generally have one when you have the MAD fellowship because it counts as 100% support. But you can get a one semester fellowship and then do the RA or TA another semester. Did that answer your question, Ben?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I see Kunal has asked the question about if you knew when you applied to MIT what you know now about your experience, um, what programs do you think would complement the MAD fellowship?
Do you mean, does he, departments, or I'm not
I
sure.
think he's thinking courses
Oh, yeah.
or activities and things of that nature. He's not a current MIT student, so he's trying to understand or yeah, the
Yeah,
person is
yeah.
trying to understand.
And I guess
Oliver?
the question is
Yeah.
the current and former.
Okay. So, Oliver or Maxine or Sophia, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. Before I applied to MIT, I didn't know anything about anything at MIT. Like I was just like I had no idea about anything that was happening. So I personally did not. But I was very like first get in and then figure out what's next.
For me, I think the only thing I knew was about Design X, because I knew a couple of like people that was part of Design X. I don't know if you were talking about that, but like we're like part of the cohorts, and that's a very complimentary like program. I don't know if that's the question.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat to Maxine. I had no idea what was going on. Um, but I knew that there was a very rich like MIT or a design presence at MIT, in particular because there were like many professors that I was really interested in working with, and some of them were within MAD already. Um, but the fellowship kind of seemed more apparent as time went on. Um,
It seems like a good number of fellows are in Design X. I mean, someone's mentioned that they were appreciated, people mentioning that. And Maxine has also mentioned being a part of the Student Advisory Council and having the ability to propose a workshop that people could get involved with. And I'm mentioning that in response to this question because there are a lot of things organically that happen as part of MAD that will really resonate with you and you'll gravitate towards them. So you'll see people in Design X, you'll see people making proposals about things to do. Someone's already mentioned that we have a vibrant public programming schedule. So there are things to participate in and help to shape. So in answer to the question about what how might you put together a complementary set of activities, I think the answer is being open to the activities that are here and really working with people like Catherine and Maria who know a lot about the Institute to find other things that might be of interest to you because they are real resources and can point you in directions that will help you to really amplify your experience.
Rohil has a question about in the application, talking about one project or idea and how tied you are to what's put forth in the application. And I think Maxine's, introduction to herself provides a great example of applying with, one area of design and then receiving the fellowship and having the flexibility to pivot in her design work. And so I think the selection committee is really looking to the quality of ideas the applicant is expressing, and we are not holding applicants to deliver, specifically what is proposed in the application. Does that answer your question, Rohil?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
So Yulin has a question. My program encourages to apply for fellowships or external funding, but if we don't get external funding, we'll be assigned a TA or an RA. How should you explain your funding situation? I think that's like exactly like you just explained it. It's totally fine.
That's exactly what I'm writing.
There's no need to vary. But you're done with that piece. So
yeah. I wasn't fast enough.
Yeah, no. And William Alstetter, if we have tuition fellowship from our department, are we still eligible to apply? Yeah, so I don't know what department you're in, but if you have some departments will say, look, we will give you a TA or an RA ship if you can't find other funding. That's kind of how they phrase it. You are still absolutely allowed to apply. I think the other question was, my PI is giving me RA, like that's my job is to do research on this. That's a different situation. If you have backup funding, that's I don't know if does that answer your question, William?
Well, to clarify, my funding's not tied to any specific like job. It's just a departmental fellowship for tuition. But
Yeah.
obviously, MAD offers a lot more than just tuition, and I would be happy to like reject that money from the department in preference for a MAD fellowship, but I don't know like what that may look like.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, is that I go back to my original statement. If I'm understanding your question correctly, you can't have more than 100% support. So if you have a tuition fellowship and you receive the MAD fellowship, then you will still only have 100% support, whether that's all MAD or that's some portion of your department's funding plus some portion of the MAD funding.
So it is able to be like broken up and I can still
You
apply.
could break it up, yes.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Is that the question you were going to ask, William, when you had your hand raised?
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
Okay.
So how does one semester, Pietro's asking, how does one semester fellowship compare to a full 1-year fellowship? Aside from the funding aspect, great question. Whether you receive a 1-year, 2-semester fellowship or 1 semester, we do require the fellows to participate in the fall semester seminar. And so I guess it's really the funding is what makes the difference. Everyone participates in the seminar and is invited to participate in activities throughout the year.
I would add that if you only get the 1 semester of funding, you still receive the scholarly allowance. It's not pro rata, it's the full allowance.
Do we have other questions?
May I ask a question? Can people
Yeah.
put in the chat where some of the departments or majors or actually department, major,
Oh, yeah.
and master's or PhD? I'm curious.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great if you said your department and major.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Big range.
Yeah, wonderful.
And so we also want to remind everyone, we know questions will come up afterwards, and you can always write to madfellowship@mit.edu, which is, on the information page. We know questions are going to come up afterwards. Reach out to us, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Any other questions? Amanda, please. Oh, Amanda, would you like to ask your question?
Oh, we have a question about application portal. Is there a link?
So I encourage you, I'm going to put the link in for the information page, which that page has a link to the Accelerator app. I recommend that you start with our MAD info page to get an idea of what the application looks like, and that will direct you to the Accelerator app portal. And the Accelerator app lets you start it and come back to complete it later, which is why we've chose that portal for now.
Actually, Catherine, I guess I could do this myself. Someone asked about the other MAD events. One of the things I mentioned is MAD IAP. We have makerspace activities. We have Designing Your Life MAD Reads, book discussion. There's some workshops around imagination and thinking of how to come up with new ideas. We almost always have a book launch in the fall and the spring. And right now we're looking at Sentido as a book that we're going to be discussing as a community in, I think, sometime in February or March. So those are just some of the things. But you can also, I'll put a link to our events page, and you can see some of the things that we've done in the past and that we have coming up.
I'm trying to see if we other question. I have it's a direct question.
I guess I could also ask about if there's anything specifically you'd look for our recommenders to talk about.
Yes. So your recommender should be a faculty member, like a professor, and if they are your actual direct advisor. Not all departments have that. They should be able to talk about sort of your research or your projects and your overall academic quality. For some units like Sloan, it's a different arrangement, and they should just be able to talk about you more generally in the way that you. So I would definitely have a conversation with them to tell them about your design aspirations so they can speak to that.
Someone asked the question, is it possible to have a MAD fellowship the semester after graduating? And the answer is no. You have to be in residence.
Someone had raised their hand, but then stopped.
It was Amanda.
It was me. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute before, but I could not. It was also about faculty member nomination because I see that in the site, there's specific sentence that says that the letter should be 2 pages or less, and the faculty member should also explain why the financial need how the financial need would be for the faculty members research group. And I was a bit confused by that because should this nomination come from a professor who has a specific research or work in an area related to what I'm working on, or is that okay, like to ask a professor who I have a proximity with, but does not work on the specific project I want to work on?
I mean, so yes, it's okay to have someone who's not your direct advisor, although it would be kind of weird if it was not, if you're like in a research program, to not have your advisor be the one to write the letter. But if you're in some units like Sloan, you don't really have an advisor, so I could totally see
Yeah.
that situation. But there are, I mean, and if it's more comfortable, we can talk offline about your particular situation, but
Oh yeah, it would be precisely the Sloan situation, just because it functions a little bit different. That's why.
yeah, I totally understand. Yes.
But the other thing for others, it may be a situation where perhaps funding is ending. And so it would be very helpful to the group, as well as obviously to the graduate student, to have MAD provide funding. And so we want to try to have as holistic a picture as possible in terms of the impact that the fellowship could have on both the individual and on the research group, if that's relevant.
Thank you.
So there's a question here from Rohil about can the nominator advisor be a potential or proposed advisor rather than someone you've already been working with? Is that the one you were answering, Maria? Or
No.
no?
Yeah.
I would say in general is the best nominator is somebody who knows you. And so yeah, and that's usually not a potential or proposed advisor, but someone that you've worked with, because you want to have someone who can speak to your abilities. Is there a specific situation, Rohil, that comes to mind?
Yeah, basically, I've been trying to find an RA and haven't been able to find a faculty advisor who has funding in the areas I'm interested in. So, like, I have a professor for one of my classes who's willing to work together, and we've spoken before. But he just can't work with me unless he has the funding to support me.
So he would be your advisor if you had funding. Is that?
Yes, if I had funding, he would be my advisor. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a totally reasonable case where that person could be your letter, because you
Okay.
would work. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
There's another, I can't say the name. Can my recommender be a faculty member who I took their class but is not my direct advisor? Yes, that could be the case. You could have an instructor, a professor who is an instructor, be that person. It's less common. Like we would typically expect an advisor, but some programs don't work that way. So does that answer your question?
Sure.
Ben.
You want to tackle that one, Maria?
Yes. So Ben's question is about whether if you say are working on hardware design for nanoelectronics and its human component, you can certainly talk about its sort of societal benefit. Um, it may be the specific applications and the ways that your work could be used. Yes, we do get that question a lot. So absolutely.
I see that we're coming towards the end of the hour, and I guess I want to ask if Sophia, Oliver, and Maxine, you know, if you were going to give the folks on this call one piece of advice related to their application, what would you tell them based on your experience?
I'm happy to start. I think like don't overthink it and just like be yourself. Like just the fact that you're interested in this fellowship probably means that you're working on design. So, just like be authentic and don't worry about matching exactly what the previous fellows did or what you think, it has to fit into this specific kind of template. Just, be yourself.
Okay, great. Be
Great
authentic.
advice, Maxine. Super advice.
And also like jumping also into that of being yourself. I also use the application process for like understanding my journey with design, and I showcase that and like use it as an exercise to know yourself as well. Nobody is gonna judge you how you think design. No, like there is no limits. And I want like all of you to like think about that, because when I was like trying to like explain myself and my journey and my background and everything, I was like, I don't know, like I think this is not going to be much designy as architecture, and then like you can like bring design in so many ways, like and also like bringing design in a new way in a new area. It's also what makes you stand out. So don't be afraid of like combining design in like weird ways. So yeah.
Be fearless and think about your journey. Okay. Oliver?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like grounding whatever type of design you're doing in some sort of societal impact is really important, because often that's who design impacts the most. Um, and then also just having some sort of vision for yourself, like how do you envision the future of your work in terms of its design capacity? That's how I sort of structured my application.
Awesome, thank you. A vision and grounding in societal impact. Great advice. Authenticity. Think about your journey, be fearless, and impact and vision. Wow. Good raps.
Uh, who should we reach out to if we have more questions?
madfellowship@mit.edu. And
That's awesome.
all the information is also on our webpage. And I'll put that in one last time.
Yes. And maybe you can put the email address too.
Yes. Oh, yes. Did that not come through?
No, it
I
came
don't know.
through. It's there. Yep.
Oh, I see it. I see it. It didn't have the little blue line. So no, that's perfect. And that goes to all of us, by the way. So
Yeah.
we all see it.
And this recording will be uploaded onto the fellowship info page, maybe next week, late next week.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to Sophia and Oliver and Maxine for being our awesome
Yes.
ambassadors. So
thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.